Hi everyone, I am the Beardy Red Viking, and this is an entry to Marc G with the C's celebratory giveaway. Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be participating in Marc G with the C's celebration of having hit 2,000 subscribers to his channel. 2,000 subscribers is an absolutely massive achievement for a channel like Marc's and a channel like mine, a channel like anyone's in this metal corner of the VC. He's done absolutely fantastically. If you don't know Marc, I will leave a link down to his channel in the description below. But I'm sure if you're watching my channel, chances are you have a good idea who Marc is. He's a fantastic guy. I've been lucky enough to meet him a number of times over the last couple of years. I have met him at several gigs. He's a wonderful fella. The guy that you see on the screen is the guy that you meet in person. He's so down to earth. He's such a lovely guy and he loves his death metal. But yeah, as I say, his channel has recently reached 2,000 subscribers, so I want to celebrate with Marc that massive achievement. So Marc set up a challenge a few weeks ago now, asking for his entrants to his giveaway to come up with entries for the following three things. So there's See No Evil, there is Hear No Evil, and there is Speak No Evil. You'll have seen the monkeys, you'll have seen the stormtroopers, you know the score. So I'll run through the meaning of those in the context of the giveaway as I'm going through them, but we'll start with See No Evil. And See No Evil, Marc asked us to come up with a couple of albums, two albums, whereby the artwork is a massive part of the experience with the album. So artwork that fits in with the music on the album really well, artwork that in particular really makes you want to listen to that album when you see it. If you see it posted on the internet, if you see it posted on social media, you think, I want to get that album out and have a listen to it. So this for me was a tough one. I'm sure it was for other people, because there's so many things that could have fit into this category. Like anything by John Dyer Baisley, for example, from Baroness. Anything from that dude would happily fit into this category. Anything from Ed Repka, I'm sure you'll all agree, would still be a good competitor in this category. Anything released by Mastodon would fit in very nicely. I always want to listen to those when I see the artwork. Most artwork by Iron Maiden, this in particular, a lot of people have shown this, but I had to mention it because it's one of my favourite pieces of artwork of all time, but everyone's shown it as one of theirs, so I couldn't feature it as one of my main entrants. So I focused on some of the more memorable stuff from the underground, particularly over the last few years. And even with that, there are plenty of things that have missed out. So, for example, there's this absolutely masterful piece of artwork, Incandescence, Le Coeur de l'Homme. Absolutely fantastic album, but the artwork, as you can see, is incredible. But even this doesn't make my list. What does make my list is Anti-Inferno's Antediluvian Dreamscapes. This was released in 2021 on Vendetta Records. The artist was a man called Stefan Todorovic. As you can see, it's beautiful, it's ethereal, it's dark, it's foreboding. Got a Reaper there, up in some spectral sort of clouds surrounded by, can't even tell what's going on there. It's like some kind of cloak of fire or something, and then there's a mirror there where you can see the Reaper's reflection. Absolutely beautiful artwork, stunning artwork. Continues onto the back as well, as you can see. But yeah, Anti-Inferno are a black metal band all the way from sunny Scarborough. This album is raw, second wave inspired black metal with plenty of tremolo riffing, yet the ferocity is juxtaposed with melody, with delicately interwoven ambient passages, and I would say the artwork is a perfect representation of the music contained within. It's a dark, atmospheric album with a real sense of ethereal foreboding, It's got shrieked, anguished vocals, which help to build the atmosphere of dread. There's also an epic grandiosity, which is brought by the synths, which produce an almost chant-like sound, and there's also melodic flourishes throughout. In the future, I would imagine this album will be considered one of the classics of modern black metal, and the artwork is deserving of its place on the cover. Next up is Cadaveric Fumes with their album Echoing Chambers of Soul. This is actually their debut full-length release. This came out in 2021 on Blood Harvest, as you might be able to see from the Obi strip there. I'll get it out of the wrapping because you need to get rid of the glare. There's still going to be a bit of a glare because it's shiny on the cover. But yeah, I do enjoy an Obi strip. But yeah, this is absolutely superb French death metal. They only actually ended up releasing one full-length album. They had a couple of EPs and some splits and singles and stuff before. But in 2021, as this album came out, the band decided to call it a day. As you can see, the artwork is murky. You've got a skull-shaped cavern, like a cave. You've got a figure here staring into wherever this leads. Beautiful artwork again. You see a lot of this kind of style of artwork on a lot of underground releases, particularly death metal over the last couple of years. You've got artists such as Stefan Todorovic, we've just seen, Robert Lewandowski, Elleron Cantor doing similar kind of style painted artwork, and it's absolutely stunning, as I'm sure you will agree. But the music within, again, the artwork perfectly encapsulates what's going on. It's cavernous, murky death metal with guitar leads so incendiary that the band decided to give them titles. There's only 8 tracks on the album, one of which is an ambient intro, and there's also an instrumental called Waters of Abzu, which closes out side 1. So as a result, it feels like the album is over too soon, and it leaves you wanting more, which, as I say, is a real shame because we're not going to be getting any more from these guys. A real shame that this is the last we're going to hear from them, but if you haven't heard it, I highly recommend giving it a try. You might struggle to get hold of a vinyl copy now because I think it's out of print, but if you can get hold of it, go for it. If you can't, stick it on Spotify or on YouTube or wherever you can find it, because this is sensational and the artwork is absolutely brilliant as well. So the next category is Hear No Evil. So what Mark asked us to do for this section was to show 2 albums that we won't hear a bad word being said about. Now, I kind of interpreted that to be an album which has been potentially given a little bit of stick over the years, either via the media or the fans or both, but you love it. Now, that's not necessarily what Mark was going for with this question, but I think a lot of people have felt the same, and I'm going to go with the same thing. So, you know me, you know my favourite bands. Of course, I was going to mention Metallica, so of course, the album I'm going to show is... Oh wait, no, sorry, no. You can say what you want about this piece of crap. I own it on vinyl because I'm a nerd and a completionist, but yeah, that one, say what you like. I'm not the biggest fan either. The album I'm going to show you is this one, And Justice for All by Metallica. Their 1988 release on Vertigo Records. This is a reissue from 2018. This actually came out of the box set. For me, this is Metallica's finest hour. And I know there's a few people out there that might agree with me on that. There's also a lot of people that would disagree. I'm not going to argue with people that say Master of Puppets is their best album, because it probably is, but this is my favourite. It gets a lot of stick for the production, particularly the noticeable lack of bass. But for me, it should be talked about more for the absolutely mind-blowing melding of progressive metal and the masterful songwriting ability of the early years of Metallica. I had no understanding of the intricacies and nuances of production when I was first introduced to this, when I first heard this. And when I first heard it, I was blown away by the songs. Not just the songs, but the fierce tempo the anger and the ferocity of both the music and the lyrics, and it stands up for me as an absolute classic. I won't hear a bad word said about it. Absolute belter of an album. Okay, so my next choice for an album I won't hear a bad word said about is Mastodon's Once More Around the Sun, released on Relapse Records back in 2014. Now, in my opinion, this album is unfairly panned by a lot of people, particularly those that swear allegiance to early Mastodon, the Remission and Leviathan albums, and think they're the only ones you should bother listening to. I couldn't disagree more. This is after the absolute masterpiece Crack the Sky, so it was always going to be challenging for them to follow that up, but I think they did a great job. They didn't try to do the same thing again, they went for something different. Now, incidentally, if we're talking about artwork, I mentioned Mastodon. Anything they put out looks sensational. But yeah, for me, the album is incredible as well. It's a masterful slice of proggy, melodic, epic metal. It isn't afraid of a hook, and it's got plenty of sense of humour. Yes, it's poppier than a lot of their stuff, but the musicianship, as always, is stellar. And the fact that they can blend those monstrous riffs with such melody, such groove, and almost ridiculously huge hooks with such skill is absolutely testament to the band's songwriting talents and skills. As you know, I love Mastodon. I love this album too. The next part of the video, and the final part of the video, is Speak No Evil. Now, what Mark wanted us to do for this part was to show two albums that we have purchased on the back of a recommendation, either from himself or from other members of the VC community. Now, I watch pretty much all of Mark's videos, and pretty much everything he shows at least piques my interest. I'll have a listen to as much of it as I can possibly get my ears around, and pretty much all of it is absolutely stellar. The guy's got taste as well as knowledge. Now, this is Ectoplasma's Infernal Kabbalah, which came out on Rotted Life in 2022. Now, as Mark would say, this is filthy, dirty, horrible death metal. Classic Mark G stuff. It's got nods to both Evil Chuck era and the more progressive leaning sounds of latter era death, as well as passages that bring to mind the likes of Latter Day, Carcass, and even a bit of Napalm Death. It's blasty, it's riffy, it's groovy, it's fast, it's mid-tempo. It's got everything you want from death metal. It's got plenty of riff face, as Mark would call it. I personally call it the dirt face. But Mark always talks about the riff face, and that's a good name for it too. Just makes you pull that face, doesn't it? You listen to that dirt, that filth, and you can't help but bang your head and pull a revolting face. This is full of that kind of stuff. Plenty of riffy moments, as I say, and it's got those bleh kind of vocals. Definitely reminiscent of Evil Chuck, but a little bit deeper. It's definitely worth a listen if you've not heard it. They're from Greece. This is their second or the third album. I know they've got one more, definitely. They may have more than that. I should have done better research on this, I admit. What can I say? I don't do as good a research as Mark. Mark probably doesn't need to research. I think he's got it all stored up here in his head. He's been into all this stuff as long as I've been alive, pretty much. So, yeah. But this is fantastic. If you don't know it, I highly recommend giving it a listen. My final entry into this giveaway, as Mark likes to call it, is Coffin Mulch with Spectral Intercession. Now, this isn't actually the release that Mark introduced me to. That would be 2021 EP Septic Funeral, which I meant to get out and show as well, but I didn't do that because my brain is fogged, as always. So yeah, I forgot to do that, but this came out this year. It's the debut full-length release. Spectral Intercession came out 2 or 3 months ago on At War with False Noise. Again, the artwork is stellar, both inside and outside. But yeah, the reason why I'm showing this rather than Septic Funeral is I haven't shown this on my channel yet, and I absolutely love it. It's a different beast altogether to Septic Funeral, I would say. While that was a slower, doomier affair, this is pretty much full-on early Entombed worship. It's got a faster, more aggressive, face-melting, buzzsaw attack kind of sound to it. The hype sticker says it nicely, actually. You might be able to read this, you might not. At last, the debut full-length LP from Coffin Mulch. Punked up, spiked glove to the face, chainsaw death metal. Sums it up very nicely. That's a little cover of Supposed to Rot on Flexi Disc there as well. I picked that up at a recent gig where I saw them. I was lucky enough to see them alongside Marc G, with a C, and my good friend Johnny Mac from Rock and Metal Plus channel, and a few others at Atma in Manchester a month or two back. They were absolutely superb, and I'm getting to see them again at Dead of Winterfest in Glasgow in January. I think they might be at Damnation Festival as well, so that will be 3 times seeing these masters of deep fried death metal, as Mark calls it, because they're from Scotland. Fantastic band, as you would expect from a band that Mark's recommended. Finally, just before we leave, to avoid any Marc G type tumbleweeds, I'll show you what we're listening to in the background. This is Wolf Bastard with their 2015 self-titled release. As you can hear, it's filthy, dirty, horrible, DB, crusty, black metal-y filth. Absolutely brilliant. I know the vocalist from this band, Des. I've known him for a long time. I've not had loads to do with him over the recent years, but I used to play gigs with him quite a bit, and in his other band, Burial. But yeah, this is a great release as well. Check it out if you don't know Wolf Bastard. I know some of you do. I've had comments from Dylan. I know Johnny Mac knows him. But yeah, if you don't know this band, give them a listen. They're fucking nasty. So that concludes my entry to Mark's giveaway. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you've got any comments you'd like to leave down below regarding my choices, if you agree, if you strongly disagree, I'd be happy to talk about it down in the comments below. That's what this is all about. It's all about growing a community. And as I said before, if you don't know Mark's channel, you need to go and check him out. Link down in the description below. Mark's a lovely fella, and he's got time for everyone, and he's got plenty of time for death metal and dirty, horrible music in general. So give him a follow, give him a watch if you haven't already. Thank you very much for watching today. Take care. Beardy Red Viking, out.